Anytime.
What I'm going to show you is a practical exercise in remote viewing. This was actually the last remote viewing exercise I did. I sat here, I had a pile of blank paper. Ingo Swann sat at the other end of the table, and he has a folder, and on the front of the folder is a latitude and a longitude, and that's what we use as a trigger. It's the trigger to make my remote viewing ability that I've learned in the last 12 days flow out. And in some mysterious way that I can't explain, data on that place, defined by that latitude and longitude, comes through me and I put it on paper. So I would sit here. When I put my pen on the paper, that's the signal to Mr. Swann to give me that latitude and longitude, telling him I'm ready. Now let me say there was some trepidation. I had done this successfully many times, but each time you say to yourself, this is crazy, it can't be. So I was a little bit nervous. But anyhow, I put my pen on the paper. Ingo Swann intoned 14 degrees, 20 minutes north, 100 degrees, 35 minutes east. Haven't got the slightest idea what that is. Not the slightest. Totally blank on that. My hand now begins to move, almost like automatic writing, very close to it. I write down the latitude and longitude, and I produce what we call technically an ideogram. It doesn't matter. It's the first little nugget of information that's coming from the cosmic soup, or whatever you want to call it, through my arm. I wrote some data down here, and I said break. Okay, that is performance anxiety. I then took the coordinate again, and I wrote up, angle, break, more performance anxiety.
And how much time is elapsing between these breaks?
Maybe 15 seconds, something like that. I can't say that I'm shaking, but I'm nervous. Can I really do this? I take it the third time, notice the same sharp angle up. This turns out to be, as we shall see later, the compressed information, almost down to an atom of information about the site. I don't know that. Now, I start to take the data. These occur to me, the first signals, what you would perceive if you were there physically. Lofty, up, high, breath in. And I took a break here because I got an emotional impact, which we don't want. We just want data. And I wrote down what that impact was. It makes me draw my breath in. There's something really high here.
Okay.
Page 1. I then put that over there, pick up another piece. That's page 2. And I start drawing, and I note it's gray, a checkered surface or something. And here, this is automatic, that shape. Page 2.
And this S2, what is this?
It's a technical term.
symbolize?
S1 we call is the ideogram, the initial signal. The theory, and in fact the way it works, as time goes on, and these sessions generally last for about 30 minutes, and then it fades away. You get more and more information as it flows out, as this initial atom expands, and you can pull more and more information out of it. Initially, what you're getting is things like colors, temperatures, but you're starting to get shapes here too, but very rough. Again, no idea what it could be. Page 3. Now, my goodness, I get a sort of a cone and all of these circular, almost little circular things. And here it says round shaped. I actually made a note. And this, I said, is the ground. So we've got the ground and some kind of a cone-shaped thing with, I don't know, some shapes that are parallel and horizontal and appear to go around this. Page 4, the same thing. Notice how it's elaborating. More and more data. And here, I've actually marked what appears to be a side view of these round shapes. And this is three-dimensional now.
Yeah.
I'm no artist. You don't have to be. By now, maybe 8 minutes, 10 minutes have gone by.
And we're on page 5.
And we're on page 5. Same thing, the cone, more precise, and this is more precise. And what's really happening is I'm pulling more and more data out of this site by a process that's totally mysterious, but it works. And here I made a note that it's high. Well, that's not particularly helpful, but I think what this would tell us is we're not talking about something this size. I might be remote viewing some kind of an art object or sculpture or something, but not so, according to this. Same thing, cylinder I wrote. Who knows? And some other little things. Every mark on that paper is meaningful. Every mark. I guessed 400 to 500 feet. That's a guess on my part. I was never good at these dimensions.
Yeah.
This is very abstract, but later on you're going to see it's not abstract at all. It's almost an architect's plan.
At the time, though, you don't know what this symbolizes. So you don't know whether you might be looking at some very abstract shape or whether
No,
this
sir.
is some kind of plan view. Or
No idea. You don't visualize. You don't see. The term remote viewing is a misnomer. What you're doing is picking off data rather than actually seeing something and drawing it. So no, not a clue.
Okay.
Not a clue. And Swann is sitting there smoking his cigar and very poker-faced. So I don't know if I'm making a total fool out of myself or what. Again, part of this performance anxiety. But I just keep doing it. I keep letting this system work through my body.
And page 7 here, how many minutes in, roughly?
I wish I could tell you for sure. My guess is we're 14 or 15 minutes into this.
Okay.
And again, this is very abstract, but wait till you see the final result. Now, much less abstract. Now I have a base, a big rectangular base, something round down here. I don't know what this arrow means. Cone-shaped, cone-shaped, cone-shaped. 4 different heights, sizes of these cones, which I've already drawn earlier. Earlier, the perception as if I were there, the overwhelming perception would have been of those cones and a peculiar shape to them. That's one thing we found out about remote viewing. You're going to report what the human eye would see. That's page 8. Now I'm to page 9. Here I've got a lot of details. I'm going back and reporting some of these S2s. I feel a solidity and a complex surface curved, okay? I had an aesthetic impact. again, a technical term in this, up, heaven. Very early, we had this high, this feeling, up, heaven. How interesting. AOL, that's an analytic overlay. That's where the left brain analyzes it. We don't want to do that. Because when you start analyzing this stuff, you're going to get it wrong. Common sense connects the dots. We don't want to connect dots. We want data. We don't want emotions. We want data.
The rawer, the better.
The rawer, the better. Absolutely. And my AOL is temple or temples. My left brain has connected all these dots and this stuff and said that's a temple. But I, by this time in my training, understand that that is a no-no, an analysis. So I put it aside. I write it down. Late in a remote viewing session, these AOLs tend to be correct. But who knows? I still identified it, pulled it out. I'm back to, I'm up close to this thing now, okay? It's yellow, gray, blue, green, up close on the surface. Who knows what that is?
CFM and CFB, is that right?
I don't know what that is. Surfaces, series of right angles. I'm not sure what that is. That was page 9. Now to page 10. More drawings. Now I have this square base concept. We saw that before. Solid square base with these cones on top of that. And I have another aesthetic impact here, faking it. This, I recall this as if it were yesterday. At this point, I'm starting to make the clay model, which you'll see. I started to build these out of clay, and I had a little trouble making at least one of them stand up straight. It was leaning over. And I was putting little clay underneath it to prop it up. And I got this feeling that I'm faking the architecture of it, the construction. And I said, correcting verticality of the cone by inserting blob of putty outraged the designers and builders. In other words, they had lavished care on this thing that I'm remote viewing. And here I am sort of doing this.
Not doing justice.
No, not doing justice. It's such a sloppy job. And here, simultaneously with the clay model, I'm still doing some sketching. Rectangular base, I note. Large dome with spires around it. Again, I have not seen, in the normal sense, this target at all. And here is, I guess, the last page where I actually drew anything. And here I've elaborated what I did before. I've got some spires, and I have a sort of a flatter, rounder one there on a rectangular platform. And here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and one is built differently from the others. So those are the worksheets, and by now we're maybe 35 or so minutes into this, and my clay model is just about done. So I think it's probably time to pull out the clay model, and then we'll see what we call the feedback, the photo of the place.
How were you feeling at the end of this 35 minutes? Are you feeling...
You kept saying, I don't know what it is, I don't know what it is, I don't know.
Were you tired? Sort of, is it a draining experience?
It's an exhausting experience. There were 12 days of training, and Swann said, he said, we can't do this 12 days in a row. We're going to do 2 days or 3 days in a row, and then 2 or 3 days off. And I thought, gee, who needs that? But it turned out to be a blessing. It just would have killed me to do it otherwise. For some reason, again, unknown, it is an exhausting experience, especially when you're just learning it. So yes, I was worn out.
Yeah.
And also at this point, still did not have a clue as to whether I was on target or not. Or
When it was all over, he said, I still don't know what it is.
Now, are you the only instructor that takes to stage 6 in modeling? Is this, you're the only one that does this? Yeah, there's no one else that's been teaching or doing the remote viewing thing that has gone there.
It's not